The sun burned red over the endless desert. Heat shimmered above the sand like liquid fire. The wind was dry, carrying only dust and silence. A lone human, Eli Ross, walked through it, his boots sinking into the soft ground with every step. His clothes were torn, his water nearly gone, but his mind stayed sharp. He had been a soldier once, then a traitor. Now just a traveler searching for something that no longer existed. Peace, he stopped to rest near a cracked stone ridge. His small scanner beeped weakly, no sign of life, just the same empty readings for miles. Dead planet, he muttered, brushing dust off his face. But then he heard something. At first, it was only the wind. Then it came again, a voice, faint, crying, desperate. Eli froze. Voices didn't exist out here. No humans, no colonies, no settlements. He listened again. It came from somewhere behind the ridge, a weak, broken scream. Help, please. He dropped his pack and ran. His boots kicked up clouds of red dust as the sound grew clearer. Then he saw it, a figure sinking in the sand. A small one. The desert floor had turned into a pool of soft, sucking quicksand. A pair of silver hands thrashed helplessly above it. Without thinking, Eli pulled the rope from his pack and ran closer. Hold on, he shouted. The figure turned toward him, eyes glowing faintly blue through a mask of sand and tears. They weren't human. She was alien. For a second, instinct told him to stop. His world had been at war with her kind, the Zarthone, for years. But the sight of those terrified eyes broke that thought apart. He threw the rope. Grab it, he yelled. She tried, missed, and sank deeper. The sand hissed like boiling water. He cursed, tied the rope around his chest, and stepped forward. The ground quivered. He threw himself flat and reached out. Their fingers brushed, slipped, then caught. He pulled with all his strength. The sand dragged at his legs, heavy and cold. His muscles screamed. Sweat burned his eyes. But inch by inch, he pulled her up. Her silver hair clung to her face, her armor half buried. When she finally broke free, she collapsed beside him. Coughing hard, Eli lay on his back, breathing like he had run a marathon. The alien girl trembled beside him. Her breathing was fast and shallow. The markings on her neck glowed faintly in the dying light. She looked young, no more than 17, maybe younger in human years. He sat up slowly. "You okay?" he asked. She blinked at him, confused. Her language was strange, but the tone of his voice calmed her. She tried to speak, words soft and musical. "Lyra, Lyra," he repeated. She nodded weakly. He reached into his pack, pulled out his last flask, and handed it to her. "Drink." She sniffed the water carefully, then drank in small sips. Her body trembled less now. Eli noticed a cut on her arm, deep, bleeding blue. He tore a piece of cloth from his sleeve and wrapped it around her wound. She flinched at his touch but didn't pull away. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Only the wind moved. Then, far in the distance, a low howl echoed through the dunes. Not an animal, a horn. Deep, metallic, ancient. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. She looked toward the sound, then back at Eli, and said something quickly urgent, panicked. He didn't understand, but her meaning was clear. Danger. She stood, wobbling, and grabbed his hand. "Go," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Go now." Before he could respond, she pulled away and ran bare feet, leaving faint glowing prints in the sand. Eli tried to call her back, but she disappeared behind the ridge. Swallowed by the heat and light, he stood there for a while, confused, watching the dunes shift. The horn faded into silence. The desert was calm again, as if nothing had happened. Eli sighed and looked down at the place where she had stood. Her footprints shimmered faintly blue for a few seconds before vanishing. He frowned. "Strange girl," he muttered, as he turned to pack his gear. Something caught his eye half buried in the sand where she had fallen. A small crystal pendant, shaped like a teardrop, glowing faintly in the sunlight. He picked it up. It pulsed once warm to the touch and then went still. Eli stared at it for a moment, then slipped it into his pocket. He didn't know it yet, but saving that one alien girl would change everything behind him. On the far ridge, a shadow moved tall, armored, and watching. The figure raised a strange device to its mouth. A whisper of alien speech crackled through the desert wind. The human has touched the chief's blood. Then silence again. Only the sound of sand shifting under a dying sun. Eli started walking east, unaware that dozens of glowing eyes now followed his trail. The desert had remembered his kindness, and it would not forget. The sun rose again over the red desert, painting the dunes in gold and blood. Eli Ross sat beside his small campfire, half asleep, staring at the flickering flame. He hadn't seen the alien girl Lyra since last night. Her pendant still rested in his hand, its faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat. He turned it over again and again, wondering why he had kept it. Maybe guilt. Maybe curiosity. Or maybe something else, something he couldn't name. The wind picked up. It carried a strange whisper, like many voices speaking softly together. Eli frowned and looked around. No one. Only empty sand and the burnt orange sky. He told himself it was just the wind and packed his things. But as he moved, his radio began to crackle. Ross, ..human, found. He froze. The signal was faint, broken, and mixed with strange static-like music and screams twisted together. He tapped the device. Who's there? No answer. Only the whispering wind. He sighed, shaking his head. Great. Either the radio's dying, or I am. Eli started walking east again. The dunes shifted constantly, turning the landscape into waves of red dust. After hours, the heat made his vision blur. He paused to drink the last of his water, but the bottle was nearly empty. That was when he saw something new. Carved into a tall slab of stone were symbols long. Curved lines glowing faint blue, the same color as Lyra's eyes. Around them, the sand was undisturbed, as if the wind refused to touch it. Eli stepped closer. The markings pulsed faintly, and the air grew cold. He reached out to touch one end. His radio crackled again. The single word made his heart stop. He pulled his hand back, breathing fast. What the hell? He looked around. Nothing. But when he turned back to the sand, his eyes widened. Someone or something had written a single word. Beside his boot prints, .det. The letters glowed faintly before fading back into dust. Eli's instincts screamed at him to leave. He tightened his pack straps and kept moving, faster this time. The sun burned hotter, shadows stretched longer, and the wind howled like laughter by nightfall. He reached a small canyon where jagged rocks offered shelter. He built a small fire, ate a dry ration bar, and sat staring at the stars. They glittered like ice, millions of them, and yet the desert felt more alive than the sky. He pulled Lyra's pendant from his pocket again. It glowed softly in his palm, casting blue light on his face. "Who are you, kid?" he murmured. "And what did I walk into?" Suddenly, behind him a sound. A soft crunch of sand. A slow step. He turned fast, hand on his pistol. The firelight flickered, showing a shape just beyond its glow, a figure. Tall and still. "Who's there?" Eli called. No answer. Just silence. Then the figure took one step closer. The light revealed its face, and alien warrior, skin of dark silver, eyes like molten gold, the same kind as Lyra. The warrior held a long staff that shimmered with energy. Eli raised his pistol. "Stop right there." The alien didn't move. His voice was deep, calm, but filled with warning. "You touched the chief's blood." Eli's breath caught. "What? The girl you saved? She is the daughter of Zarthun, leader of the desert clans. By saving her, you claimed a debt of blood. The sands know it. The clans know it." Eli frowned. "I didn't claim anything. I just pulled her out." The alien tilted his head slightly, almost curious. "The desert does not care what you mean, human. It remembers only what you did." Eli's grip tightened on the gun. "And what does it remember?" The alien took one slow step forward. "That you saved one of ours. And now, all of ours will come for you." Before Eli could react, a flash of blue light blinded him. When his vision cleared, the warrior was gone, vanished into thin air. Only the sand remained. Swirling slowly in the wind, Eli sat back down, breathing hard. He didn't understand half of what just happened. But one thing was clear. The desert wasn't empty anymore. He tried to rest, but sleep refused to come. The night grew cold, and the whispers returned softer this time, almost sad. He thought he heard Lyra's voice among them. "Run, before they come." He opened his eyes. The pendant glowed brighter now, its rhythm faster. Like a heartbeat racing in fear, Eli stood and looked to the east, where the horizon glowed faintly blue. Far away, lights moved, dozens of them, creatures or machines. Coming closer, he clenched his jaw and whispered, "Guess I'm not alone anymore." He kicked sand over the fire and started walking into the darkness. Behind him, the wind rose into a strange melody, half warning, half farewell. The dunes shifted, as if alive, forming a pattern that glimmered briefly in moonlight. A circle around a single, human footprint. The desert had chosen its witness. And soon, everyone, human and alien alike, know his name. The morning sun rose slow and heavy, turning the desert sky a deep orange. Eli Ross walked through the dunes, each step sinking deep into the red dust. His throat burned from thirst, and his mind replayed the strange words of the alien warrior. "You touched the chief's blood." He couldn't forget them. The night's whispers still haunted him, too. The faint echo of Lyra's voice in the wind. He had tried to convince himself it was just exhaustion, but deep down he knew the desert was not silent anymore. Something was moving beneath it. Watching him by midday, he reached higher ground. From there, he saw black smoke rising in the distance, thick, dark, unnatural. Smoke meant people. Or worse, he checked his pistol and began to climb down. His boots slipped in the loose sand as he hurried toward the smoke. Soon he heard its screams. Engines, plasma, fire. When he reached the ridge, his heart froze. Below, a human caravan was under attack. 2 desert trucks were on fire, and humans were running for cover as alien raiders, tall, armored figures riding hover beasts, circled like wolves. Eli crouched low. The attackers were Zarthon warriors. Their armor glowed with tribal marks, and their spears fired bursts of blue plasma. The humans fought back with rifles, but they were outnumbered. Eli lifted his rifle scope. That's when he saw her through the heat and smoke. He spotted Lyra, the same alien girl he had saved. Her silver hair was tangled, her armor cracked. But she wasn't fighting. She was dragging a wounded alien child behind a rock, shielding him from human fire. His breath caught. "Lyra, what are you doing here?" The human commander yelled. "Open fire! Take them down!" Blasts of plasma and bullets tore through the air. Eli's instincts kicked in. He didn't think, he just moved. He slid down the slope and sprinted into the chaos. "Stop! Don't shoot the girl!" He yelled, but the roar of explosions drowned him out. A plasma bolt hit the ground near him, knocking him to one knee. He fired back at the air, not to hit, but to draw attention. The humans turned toward him, confused. "Who the hell is that?" One shouted before Eli could answer. A blaster bolt slammed into the rock beside him, shattering it. He dove for cover. The air filled with heat and smoke. Lyra saw him. Her eyes widened in shock. First confusion, then recognition. She whispered something to the alien child and ran toward him through the fire. Eli ducked behind a burning truck. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted as she slid in beside him. "You shouldn't either." She snapped back, her voice trembling. "They'll kill you if they see you." He looked at her arm. The wound he had bandaged was still faintly blue beneath the cloth. "You're hurt again." She shook her head. "No time. They think you're the enemy." "Yeah, same problem on my side." Another explosion shook the ground. Sand rained down on them. Lyra grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the ruins of a collapsed crawler. "Come. I know a way out." They ran, dodging fire and falling debris. Eli saw alien warriors chasing them, not attacking, but shouting in their strange language. He realized they weren't trying to kill Lyra. They were trying to protect her. When they reached the far dunes, they dove behind a stone wall. Eli gasped for air, his heart pounding. What the hell was that? Lyra looked back at the battlefield, the humans retreating, the aliens regrouping. "Raiders," she said softly, "but not my people. These are exiles. They follow no code. They saw your kind's machines and attacked." Eli frowned. "And you? You were helping a child. That didn't look like war to me." She hesitated. Her voice dropped low. "The child was my brother." That hit him like a punch. "Your brother?" She nodded. "He was taken by them. I came to bring him home. But they turned on me too." Eli's anger faded, replaced by something softer. "So that's what this was. A rescue." Lyra looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, her eyes didn't seem alien. They were just tired. "You saved me once," she whispered. "Now I've brought danger to you." He shook his head. "You didn't bring danger. It was already here." In the distance, a deep horn echoed again, the same sound from the first night. Lyra's face went pale. "They've found us." Eli aimed his rifle toward the ridge. "Your people?" She nodded slowly. "My mother's scouts. They will come for you now. They know your face." He lowered his weapon, sighing. "Let them come. I'm done running." Lyra turned to him, panic rising in her voice. "You don't understand? You saved the daughter of Zarthon. That makes you part of the clan now." Eli blinked. "Part of what?" Before she could explain, blue light erupted from the sand. Rings of energy spiraled around them. Figures appeared, tall warriors in silver armor, holding staffs crackling with energy. Eli stepped back, shielding Lyra out of reflex. The leading warrior raised his hand. His voice boomed through the desert air. "Human Eli Ross," he said. "By saving the chief's blood, you have bound your life to hers. Come with us. The clan demands your presence." Eli looked at Lyra. Her expression was torn between fear and something like hope. "If you go," she whispered, "there is no turning back." He looked at the burning horizon, then at her trembling hand reaching toward him, and for reasons even he couldn't explain. Eli took it. The warriors surrounded them in light, and in a flash, the desert vanished. Only silence remained, along with the faint smell of smoke, and the memory of human footprints fading into alien sand. The world came back in flashes of light. Eli Ross blinked hard as his vision cleared. The desert was gone. Now he was inside a vast tent made of dark fabric that shimmered like metal. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. The air smelled of smoke, sand, and something floral-alien incense. He sat up slowly, groaning. His wrists were bound with thin glowing threads that didn't hurt but hummed faintly with energy. Around him stood several tall figures in silver armors, Arthon warriors. Their faces hidden behind masks shaped like fanged beasts. Eli's mouth was dry. "Anyone here speak English?" he muttered. No one answered. The warriors stood perfectly still, like statues. The silence was so heavy it felt alive. Then the flap of the tent opened, and Lyra stepped inside. Her silver hair was tied back. Her armor cleaner now, her glowing markings brighter than before. She looked different, calmer, almost royal. The warriors bowed as she passed. Eli frowned. "Guess you're not just anyone out there, huh?" Lyra stopped in front of him. Her expression was hard to read. "You are safe," she said softly, her accent clear but musical. "The clan brought you here." He raised an eyebrow. "Safe. I'm tied up in a room full of people who look ready to kill me." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. "They do not kill those marked by the chief's blood." "Right, that again." Eli leaned back. "You want to explain that?" Finally. Lyra hesitated. Her eyes flicked toward the guards, then back to him. "Soon," she said quietly. "My mother will speak with you." Before he could reply, the tense fabric rippled again. The guards dropped to one knee as another figure entered, taller, stronger, and older. Her armor was black with gold edges, and her eyes glowed deep amber. The energy around her felt heavy, like the air before a storm. Lyra bowed deeply. "Mother." Eli realized who she was. The chief Zarthun's leader. The one the whispers spoke of. The chief studied him for a long moment. Her gaze felt like a weight pressing against his chest. "You are the human who saved my daughter," she said through a small translation device at her collar. Her voice was deep, smooth, and commanding. Eli nodded slowly. "That's me. Just happened to be passing by." The chief's eyes narrowed slightly, as if reading his soul. "Few humans would risk their lives for one of ours. Even fewer would survive it." "I didn't do it for a reward," Eli said. "She was drowning. That's all, eh?" The chief tilted her head. "Still, a debt was written in blood that day. You touched the heir of Zarthun. You carry her mark." Eli sighed. "This mark thing, what does it actually mean?" The chief stepped closer. Her shadow covered him completely. "It means your fate is bound to hers. Until the debt is paid, your life is protected by our clan. No one may harm you. Not even your own kind." He blinked. "Wait, what?" Lyra's voice was soft. "It is our law. You saved my life. Now my clan owes you a life bond. It cannot be broken." Eli's heart sank. "That sounds less like gratitude and more like trouble." The chief's lips curved in a faint, knowing smile. "Trouble is what binds all warriors, human." She turned to her guards and spoke in her own language. The warriors stepped forward, cutting the glowing threads around Eli's wrists. He rubbed his hands, watching her carefully. "Come," she said. "You will eat with us. You will learn our ways." He hesitated. "And if I refuse?" The chief's amber eyes glowed brighter. "You would insult the sands that spared you. And the sands have long memories." Eli sighed. "Guess I'm staying for dinner then." That night, they gathered around a circular fire pit inside a vast open hall. The ceiling shimmered like the inside of a cave filled with starlight. Warriors sat cross-legged, passing bowls of glowing food that smelled spicy and sweet. The chief sat at the center, Lyra beside her, and Eli across from them. He tasted the food. He'd tingled like electricity, but somehow warmed his chest. He couldn't help but stare at the way the fire reflected off Lyra's silver skin. She caught his gaze once, then quickly looked away. After a long silence, the chief spoke again. "The humans believe us savages," she said, "that we hunt for sport. But our law is older than your cities." Eli nodded. "Then why attack human convoys? I saw your raiders killing civilians today." Her expression hardened. "Those were exiles. Dishonored ones who have no clan. We do not control them." Lyra whispered something in her mother's ear, and the chief's face softened slightly. "My daughter says you've protected her again, even from your own kind." Eli shrugged. "Habit, I guess." A ripple of quiet laughter passed through the warriors. The chief leaned forward. "You are strange, human. You walk with courage, yet speak with weariness. War does that?" Eli said simply. The chief studied him for a long moment. Then she stood. "Tomorrow, you will see what you saved. You will meet the heart of Zarthun." She turned and left, her cloak trailing like liquid metal. The warriors bowed as she passed. When they were alone, Lyra leaned toward him. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Do not fear my mother. She honors the old ways. But others?" She looked toward the shadowed corners of the hall. "Others think you are a threat." Eli smirked tiredly. "Story of my life." Lyra hesitated, her eyes searching his face. "You shouldn't have come for me today." He looked at her, quiet for a moment. "Yeah," he said softly. "But if I hadn't, who would have?" She didn't answer. The fire flickered between them, casting long shadows on the walls. Outside, the desert wind howled like a living thing, carrying whispers of old promises and new dangers. And somewhere in the dunes, unseen by both of them, a group of armored humans were already tracking the strange signal from Eli's broken radio, heading straight toward the Zarthun camp. Morning light crept into the alien camp like slow fire through smoke. The red dunes shimmered outside, and strange blue banners flapped softly in the wind. Eli Ross sat on a stone bench, staring at the pendant he still carried, the one Lyra had dropped in the quicksand days ago. It pulsed faintly, in rhythm with his heartbeat. He didn't understand it, but every time he tried to leave the camp, the pendant grew warmer, like it wanted him to stay. The Zarthun warriors moved quietly around him. Some gave him cautious glances. Others whispered when he passed. He wasn't a prisoner anymore, but he wasn't free either. He was something else, the human who bore the chief's mark. The words still felt strange in his head. A tall alien warrior, his armor marked with crimson lines, approached. His name was Cortel, commander of the chief's guards. "Human," he said in a low voice. "The chief calls for you." Eli followed him through the narrow tunnels carved into red rock. The walls glowed with soft blue light from veins of crystal. He could hear the hum of alien machines deep below, maybe reactors, maybe something stranger. They entered the chief's chamber, large, silent, and full of wind. The floor was covered with shifting sand that moved as if alive. At its center, the chief stood, her armor glinting like sunlight on metal. Lyra was beside her, head bowed. Eli stopped a few feet away. "You wanted to see me?" The chief nodded once. "Yes, it is time you understand what your act has done." She gestured to Lyra. "When you saved my daughter, you entered into our oldest bond, the debt of life. It is sacred to the Tsar. Thun, it binds two souls until one life balances the other." Eli frowned. "Balances how?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft but sad. "It means, if one dies, the other follows. The bond ends only when the debt is repaid." Eli's stomach turned cold. "You mean if one of us dies, the other yes?" the chief said quietly. "The desert remembers balance." He stared at them, trying to find words. "That's insane. I didn't agree to any of this." The chief's gaze was calm, unshaken. The desert does not ask permission. You saved her life, human. Now it guards yours as its own. Eli turned to Lyra. Can't you break it? You're the one marked, not me. She shook her head. No one can. It is old magic, older than our kind. Even our priests cannot touch it. Eli took a step back, anger and confusion mixing in his chest. So what am I supposed to do now? Sit here and pretend we're family? The chief's expression didn't change. You will live among us until the sands choose otherwise. Your safety is guaranteed. Eli's jaw tightened. I don't need your protection. Perhaps not, she said softly, but my daughter does. And your bond has already made you her shield. Before he could reply, a horn sounded outside. Low, thunderous, filled with alarm. The chief turned sharply, her armor flashing. A guard rushed in. Chief, human patrols have crossed the western ridge. They are armed. Eli's blood froze. Humans. The chief looked at him sharply. Your people have found us. I didn't call them, he said quickly. My radio someone must have tracked its signal. Lyra stepped forward. Mother, they will see him here and think he's a hostage. They will attack. The chief nodded grimly. Then the sands will drink blood again. Eli moved toward her. Wait. Don't fight them. They'll kill everyone. Let me talk to them, Cortel growled, his voice deep and cold. Your people do not talk, human. They burn. Eli clenched his fists. Then let me burn first. The chief studied him for a long, silent moment. You would face your kind alone. I'd rather die trying to stop a war than watch it happen, he said. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. If you die, I die too. He turned to her, meeting her glowing eyes. Then I guess we both live carefully. The chief raised her hand, and the guards fell back. Very well, human. You may try your words. But know this, if they strike first, we answer with fire. Eli nodded. Fair enough. They moved to the outer ridge. The wind howled through the rocks, whipping red dust into their faces. On the horizon, a line of human tanks and soldiers appeared, armor shining. Flags snapping in the wind. Eli stepped forward, hands raised. The chief and her warriors stood behind him, weapons glowing faintly. A human officer shouted through a loudspeaker. Identify yourself? It's Eli Ross. He yelled back. Don't shoot. I'm not a prisoner. There was silence. Then, through the binoculars, the officer's voice turned sharp. Ross, you've been missing for weeks. Step away from the aliens. I can't, Eli called back. They saved my life. We can end this without blood. The officer's tone hardened. They're hostiles. They've killed humans before. Move aside. Eli shook his head. If you fire, you'll kill civilians. They're young, they're wounded enough. The officer barked. Stand down or we open fire. Behind Eli, the chief's warriors raised their weapons. The air sizzled with energy. Lyra stepped beside him. They will not listen. Then we make them, Eli said quietly. He reached into his pocket and held the pendant high. Its blue light flared like a beacon. The desert wind roared louder, reacting to it. Look around, Eli shouted. This isn't just their land or ours, it's alive. You think killing them will fix anything? It'll bury us all. For a moment, the wind seemed to carry his voice for miles. The soldiers hesitated. Even the chief looked at him with new eyes. Then, a gun fired. One single shot, Lyra gasped. The blue light around them cracked like glass. Eli felt something hot and sharp tear through his shoulder, and in the same instant, Lyra screamed, clutching her own. They fell together into the sand as chaos exploded around them. Eli's vision blurred. He could hear Lyra's heartbeat echoing inside his own. The chief's voice roared like thunder, calling her warriors to arms. And as the first missiles struck the dunes, the pendant between Eli's hands began to glow brighter than the sun. The world was noise and fire. Eli Ross hit the ground hard, dust filling his lungs, blood burning in his shoulder. All around him, explosions tore through the dunes. Plasma bolts streaked across the sky, red and blue lights crossing like lightning. The ground shook beneath him as human shells met alien plasma. He could hear screaming. Both human and alien. Lyra lay beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly through the smoke. She clutched her chest, her breath short and shallow. The wound on Eli's shoulder burned with the same strange blue light as hers. The bondet of life was reacting to the pain. He crawled toward her, ignoring the fire raining down. "Lyra, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. "Eli, you were hit." "So were you," he said, pulling a cloth from his belt and pressing it to her wound. "Looks like we share more than bad luck now." A distant roar echoed human tanks advancing through the ridge. The Zarthun warriors shouted, forming defensive lines around the chief. Blue energy shields flared as shells slammed into them. The desert glowed like a furnace. The chief appeared through the smoke, her armor scorched, her voice like thunder. "The bond burns. The desert calls for blood." Eli looked up at her, pain twisting his face. "No, it's not the desert Teeds, the war." She pointed toward the horizon, where human dropships descended like dark comets. "Your kind brings death. The sand remembers." He pushed himself up, bleeding, furious. "You think killing them will save you? It'll destroy everything. Both sides will vanish under the same sky." Lyra reached for her mother, her voice weak but desperate. "Mother, please. The sands are crying. Can't you hear them?" The chief froze. For a heartbeat, the wind died. The sand beneath them began to move, not from footsteps, not from explosions, but from something deeper. The dunes trembled, ripples spreading outward like waves. Corteo shouted, "The desert awakens." Eli looked around, eyes wide. Cracks formed in the ground. The air shimmered with blue light. The crystals buried beneath the dunes were glowing, humming in unison with Lyra's pendant. The chief's face turned pale. "The life bond, it's calling the ancient energy." Eli grabbed Lyra's trembling hand. "Then we stop it before it kills everyone." She looked at him, tears mixing with dust. "How? End the fighting. Make them see." The chief stepped closer, towering over him. "You would stand between two armies." Eli wiped the blood from his face. "Someone has to." He limped toward the ridge, dragging his injured arm. Lyra leaning against him for support. The battlefield stretched before them, humans behind their burning tanks, aliens beneath broken banners. Smoke and sand mixed into one endless storm. Eli climbed the last rise and raised his voice over the chaos. "Stop shooting." No one listened. Bullets and plasma hissed past him. "Stop." He roared again, and this time the desert itself seemed to echo him. A deep vibration shook the ground, forcing both sides to pause. The glowing crystals beneath the sand pulsed, throwing out waves of blue light. Lyra's voice carried across the battlefield. "This bond is life. If one of us dies, both worlds die." The soldiers looked up, confused. Eli held up the pendant, its light so bright it hurt to look at. "We share this planet now. We bleed the same. You kill her, you kill me, and the desert will bury you all." For a long, terrible moment, silence reigned. The wind stopped. The fires flickered low. Then, from the human side, a young soldier lowered his rifle. Others followed. The chief motioned for her warriors to stand down. The weapons dimmed. Eli looked around, panting, covered in sand and sweat. He felt the bond quiet inside his chest, like two hearts beating in sync again. But peace came late. One shot, just one, from the far right flank, shattered everything. A desperate soldier, panicked, fired a missile. Eli saw it streaking toward them. There was no time to move. Lyra pushed him aside, glowing bright blue. The missile struck the sand near her and exploded in a blinding flash. When the smoke cleared, Eli was on his knees, half buried. The air buzzed with static. He looked up and saw Lyra lying still, her silver skin cracked with light. Lyra. He crawled to her, grabbing her hand. The bond inside him screamed, every nerve on fire. Her eyes opened one last time. "You stopped the war," she whispered. "The debt is paid?" "No, no, don't say that," Eli said, tears cutting through the dust on his face. "Stay with me, please." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "The desert remembers kindness, Eli Ross." Then the light in her eyes faded, and the sand began to glow around her. The crystals rose from the ground, surrounding her body in a circle of soft blue fire. The energy lifted her gently into the air, dissolving her into light. Eli reached out, his hand passing through the glow. "No." The chief watched from afar, silent, her golden eyes reflecting sorrow and awe. When the light finally faded, the battlefield was still. Both sides had lowered their weapons. Humans and aliens stood together, staring at the strange piece that now hung in the air. Eli collapsed beside the glowing crater, clutching the pendant. It was cold now, but in its center, a faint pulse remained gentle, steady, like a heartbeat. The chief walked up beside him. "The bond is gone," she said quietly. "But something greater remains." Eli looked at the horizon, where the twin suns began to rise over the quiet dunes. "Yeah," he murmured, voice breaking. "Hope." The chief bowed her head. "The desert will remember your name, human." He stared at the glowing sand where Lyra had vanished. "Just remember hers first." Dawn rose slowly over the blood-red dunes. The war was over. Smoke still drifted in thin ribbons, curling through the pale blue light. The battlefield was silent, now only the wind spoke, whispering over broken weapons and burned machines. Eli Ross stood alone in the stillness, his coat torn, his face streaked with dust. Around his neck hung the cold crystal pendant that once pulsed with Lyra's life. It no longer glowed, yet he could still feel her in the quiet heartbeat of the desert. Beneath his feet, the humans and Zarthun had stopped fighting. They didn't speak, didn't move. They just stood there, side by side, facing the rising suns. The chief of Zarthun walked toward Eli, her black armor reflecting the twin lights. She moved slowly, her face calm but her eyes heavy with sorrow. "The sand no longer thirsts," she said quietly. "It remembers your courage." Eli looked down at the sand, where faint blue light shimmered under the surface like veins of water. "She did it," he said softly. "She made it remember life again." The chief bowed her head. Lyra's spirit returned to the dunes. "She has become part of the heart of this world." He nodded, his jaw tight. "Then this world is luckier than we were." Behind them, human soldiers and Zarthun warriors began to work side by side, pulling the wounded from wreckage, burying the dead, sharing water. No one gave orders. They didn't need to. Something unseen had changed the air itself. Eli walked a few steps away, toward the center of the battlefield. The crater where Lyra had vanished was still there, smooth and glassy, glowing faintly blue in the sunlight. He knelt beside it and pressed his palm to the sand. It was warm. "Alive, hey Lyra," he whispered. "You got what you wanted. No more fighting." Guess you were right about the desert remembering kindness. The wind answered him with a soft hum-like. Her voice carried faintly across distance. The chief stood behind him. You have fulfilled the debt of life. You are free to leave our lands. Eli looked at her. Free, she nodded. The bond is gone. You owe us nothing. You belong to your kind again. He gave a small, bitter smile. Not sure I do anymore. The chief tilted her head slightly. Then perhaps you belong to the desert. He laughed quietly. Maybe I do. Days turned into weeks. The humans built a small outpost beside the Zarthon settlement, this time not as enemies, but as neighbors. Trade began metal for medicine, food for crystal energy. The first joint water harvesters rose from the sands, shimmering like glass towers in the sunlight, and at the center of it all stood the crater, a place both sides now called the heart of Lyra. No one dared fight near it. No one lied there. Even the wind seemed gentler when passing over it. The ground around it slowly changed, first to soft red clay, then to green sprouts. Life was returning to a world that had been dead for generations. Eli stayed. He repaired broken machines, taught the Zarthun how to fix water purifiers, and learned from them how to read the sky by its colors. He spoke less every day, but when he did, the people listened. They called him the Desert Witness. Sometimes at night, he would climb to the ridge and stare at the stars. The same stars Lyra once looked at, wondering if humans could feel. Now they felt everything: loss, peace, and something close to understanding. The chief often joined him in silence. One night, she said softly, "Your people will tell stories of this war. So will mine. But both will end with one truth." Eli looked at her. And what truth is that? She gazed toward the horizon, where the twin suns met the sand. That a single act of mercy can break 1,000 years of hate. He nodded slowly. Then let's make sure they don't forget it. Years passed. The desert changed. Streams of water ran through the low valleys. Crops grew in soil that once killed everything it touched. Human children play beside alien ones, laughing under the same hot sky at the edge of the oasis. A monument stood, a stone figure of a woman with silver hair, carved from the desert rock, holding a crystal that glowed faint blue even in darkness. Beneath it, words were written in both human and Zarthun script. She gave her light to end our shadow. Every morning, Eli came to sit before it. He had grown older, slower, but his eyes were still clear. He would place his hand on the sand and whisper the same words, "Still watching, Lyra." And sometimes, when the wind passed just right, he could swear he heard her laugh, soft. Like the chime of glass, he would smile, then stand and look across the oasis, the living proof that even a stranger's kindness could change a world. One evening, as the sun set in twin streaks of gold, the chief came to him one last time. Her armor was gone. She wore simple desert cloth. "You've given us peace," she said. "The dunes will remember you as long as the stars burn." Eli chuckled softly. "Then maybe they'll remember we weren't all monsters." She nodded. "They already do." He looked once more at the sky, the same red horizon where he first saw a girl sinking in quicksand. "Funny thing," he murmured. "I pulled her out of the sand that day. And she pulled all of us out in return." The chief bowed deeply. "Farewell, human Eli Ross. May your name walk with the wind." He watched her leave, then turned back toward the glowing dunes. The pendant around his neck pulsed once soft and warm, like a heartbeat saying goodbye. Eli smiled. "Rest easy, Lyra. The desert remembers." He walked into the twilight. His shadow long against the glowing sands, and as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the desert shimmered faintly, blue alive again. Whispering the name of the one human who had changed it forever, Eli roused the man who turned war into life.